I'm happy to welcome you to this evening of candidate forums. We're really so pleased to see this turnout. I just want to give you a little information about the League. The League's mission is to encourage citizens to be informed and active participants in the governmental process and to empower citizens to shape better communities, because the League believes that informed, active citizens help make our community vibrant and strong. Partly because of our 91-year history and name recognition, the League has decided to continue to keep the word women in its name, but membership in the League is open to any citizen, male or female, over 18 years of age, so any voter is welcome to join us. I invite you to join us, and we do have some membership materials that you can pick up at the end of the forums if you'd like. I think we have it right up here in the front, so as you leave, if you're interested in grabbing some of that, that would be great. So the League is a nonpartisan political organization. That means that we never support a candidate nor a political party. And at the same time, the League is wholeheartedly political and works to inform voters, and then we work really hard to get the vote out. So we begin our forum today with our candidates for Portage County District Attorney. That will be our first forum, and then the second forum will be the candidates for Assembly District 71, and then followed by the Senate District 24. Part of the reason we chose this order is because the Senate candidates will be speaking to people from not just Portage County, so we may have people traveling a little ways to get here from Wood County. This year's August 14th partisan primary is earlier than in previous years. It's been a long time since we've had such an early primary. Part of this is because to meet with the federal standards about absentee ballots and military sending in absentee ballots. So if you need to register to vote or to vote absentee, you should contact your municipal clerk soon. Be aware that voting for candidates for different offices must remain within a single political party. So this is a no crossover partisan election. The results of the August primary will determine one candidate from each party for each office, who will then represent their party in the November election. In addition to the questions that you're going to hear today at the forum, the candidates were invited to respond to written questions, and their answers have been submitted to the Stevens Point Journal and the Portage County Gazette and a few other area papers and the online newspaper. So you can find out where those are going to be published by checking our website, and the questions and responses also will be on our website. I'd now like to introduce our League member, Barb Kranig, who will moderate the first forum for Portage County District Attorney candidates.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to this forum for the Portage County August election, primary election. I am Barbara Kranig. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and I will be serving as your moderator for this portion of the forum. The first forum is for the Office of District Attorney, as you've heard. The District Attorney's Office represents the people of Wisconsin and Portage County in the courts. The District Attorney serves a 4-year term. It is a full-time position, and for the August 14th primary, there are 2 candidates, Veronica Isherwood and Louis Malepsky. In order to provide the most time to hear from the candidates and to provide fair and equal opportunity to answer questions important to you in this community, I will review the format, time, and terms for the forum. The candidates have already received this information. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening remarks. They will have 2 minutes to respond to each question, and they will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. The order for responding to questions will be alphabetical, beginning with Veronica Isherwood. The order of speaking will be rotated for each question, and I will repeat the question if requested. The timers are located in the front of the candidates' table. A green light will go on when their time starts. A yellow light indicates 30 seconds are remaining, and the red light means that time has expired. Candidates may finish their sentence and then stop when the red light goes on, and the next candidate may begin their response. Candidates are asked to keep their remarks germane to the questions and fair to the participants. The moderator reserves the right to interrupt to ensure that these ground rules are observed. Candidates will respond first to questions submitted by the League and then questions from the audience. If you wish to submit questions to the candidates, please motion to one of the ushers for an index card and pencil. There are Betty here and Christine's in the back. Questions should be addressed to all candidates and not to an individual candidate. The usher will collect your questions for the moderator. The League reserves the right to review and screen questions for relevance and to avoid duplication. And after the forum, please feel free to stay and to meet with the candidates who will be given an opportunity to speak with them personally. We now begin with a 2-minute opening statement from each candidate, beginning with Veronica Isherwood.
Thank you. Well, I get to start this whole show today. I am a candidate for District Attorney for Portage County. I have been an Assistant District Attorney for 11 years in this county. I've been prosecuting all types of criminal cases, from juveniles and CHIPS cases, which are child in need of protection and services, to homicide cases. And in fact, today I spent 7 hours in court with Judge Finn arguing motions on a homicide case where a 2-year-old baby was killed about a year ago, and that case is coming up for trial. That is what the District Attorney's Office is about. It's about taking the referrals for criminal activity from the different law enforcement agencies, preparing those cases, charging them out, being in court for any pretrial motions, hopefully coming up with a plea agreement. And the plea agreement is where I would see Judge Finn saying, yes, we want plea agreements, or if needed, take the case to trial. The protection of our community depends on having a strong district attorney's office, an office that is run with compassion and skill. And frankly, it takes years to develop the experience needed to handle an important case in court. There are very tough issues. I'm also the town clerk in the town of Buena Vista as my part-time job, and I hope to serve you all as Portage County's next district attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League for inviting me here tonight. My name is Louis Malevsky. I've worked for you for the past 9 years as your state representative. In that capacity, I had the awesome experience of writing the law, amending the law, voting on the law. As a former Portage County Special Prosecutor, I had the opportunity to work on your behalf in the capacities that my opponent just indicated, in all aspects of the law, in hundreds of cases. I've been a practicing attorney for over 11 years. But why am I leaving the Assembly, and why now? I believe what Mahatma Gandhi said about being the change in the world is something we should think about. I'm running because I believe in restorative justice. I'm running because I believe that we can make productive citizens out of criminals. Ladies and gentlemen, when we took a vote on the jail and the courts, we had a no vote. And the population said, you know what? The district attorney's office and the courts have to respond. And I want to be that response. By working with the criminal justice community and making sure that we restore the victim and the criminal. And as Judge Fleischauer said in his retirement, it's our responsibility. We are part of a village. And while it's hard to understand that we are all culpable in this criminal justice program and the system itself, ultimately, for it to work efficiently, yes, you must have experienced prosecutors. I'm an experienced attorney, experienced prosecutor, and I'm the only candidate that has done the full circle of prosecuting the law, writing the law, defending the law. And I'm asking you to allow me to come back to this office and take a vision for Portage County's criminal justice system and move us forward. As every study has indicated, we must, as the judges have said, use plea agreements and other restorative goals. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the question period. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to respond to the question. For the first question, we will begin with Louis Malewski. And that is, what will you, as a district attorney, do to effectively use county resources to make the DA's office more efficient and effective?
This is an excellent question. As I said, we have limited resources, and most likely the legislature is not going to appropriate new funds. So what we need to do is promote alternative sentencing. We already do it now. We have a diversion program for juveniles. Addict Correction Services works with it. Other counties, though, have moved further, and they have worked on drug courts, veteran courts. But remember, the process of moving into problem-solving, evidence-based courts begins with the judges and the district attorney's office and the county board. As your next district attorney, as I have as a legislator, I will work closely with all those individuals to use evidence-based practices to make sure that we work within our budget, that those nonviolent offenders are diverted, that these programs that are working continue, and that ultimately that restorative justice model that so many of us esteem to, believe is right, and who believe that throwing away the key is not the only answer. It is restoring the criminal, the victim, and our society. So in the office itself, there's some other things that can be done. We have to be efficient. I propose that we continue the process that I did when I was in the office of working with law enforcement on training. We have not done that, to my understanding, since I was in the office. That's something that's important, so that law enforcement has all of that access to training that I had down in Madison, access to professionals, so that the court process is efficient, on time, and that we as taxpayers have the most skilled, educated professionals in the courtroom. This will also be for staff. The staff has to work as a family, and by doing training, we will accomplish that goal.
Thank you. Ms. Isherwood?
Thank you. The use of county resources is an ever-shrinking pot, and that money needs to be spread further each year. As the budget gets tighter and tighter, unfortunately, the number of cases gets larger and larger. Very concrete items where we can save money is the use of video court. The judges many years ago developed initial appearances where the people in the jail appear by video, and we're slowly expanding that where people from prison appear by video. I think our county does way more writs than they need to do, and a writ is when we ask the prison to release a prisoner. 2 officers go to pick up that prisoner. They bring them back to Portage County. It may be a 1-minute hearing, and then 2 officers take them back to prison. It's 4 officers' time. It's a complete waste of money. When I operate with my cases and I have somebody in prison, I contact the defense attorney ahead of time. We make sure that we have a deal in place, that discovery's been exchanged, and if we bring that person to Portage County, we're going to accomplish something. So far, I'm the only one in the office who does that, but I would make that a county or an office-wide proposal. We do use the community facilities. We use Justice Works. We use the probation and parole department. They've been there forever. That's not county resources, but it's certainly taxpayer resources. I think more programs like this can be developed, and we can make those tight dollars go farther. Thank you.
Thank you. For the second question, we will begin with Veronica Isherwood. The question is, what are your views on the value of restorative justice, specifically the Justice Works program in Portage County?
Thank you. I've been a voting member of the Justice Works Board since its inception back in 2006, late 2006, early 2007. There are several aspects to the Justice Works program, and one of those is the Deferred Prosecution Project. That's where people don't even get convicted of a crime. Oftentimes they don't even plead in, but they enter into some services, and if they're successful, their case is dismissed. There's also the Volunteers in Probation program. In that program, they enter a plea of guilty or no contest in court. Then they're teamed with a mentor. The Deferred Prosecution Agreement, it's more independent. VIP, they're teamed with a mentor, and that mentor works with them for a year to try to meet their rehabilitative goals. If they're successful, their case is dismissed. CCAP record shows that there's a dismissal. These cases are so important. Prior to this, these low-risk offenders were referred to probation and parole, and those probation agents had to supervise these individuals, taking time away from the more serious offenders. I think the program is absolutely essential. What I would like to see is a pre-charging diversion program. And I met with Kurt Helminiak and one of the public defenders this week to explore that. With the advent of CCAP, once that case is on CCAP, it's there forever. And there are some very low-risk offenders that if we could get their training or their rehabilitation in before they're charged, that CCAP record will never exist, and that will help them in their future job hunting, school, and everything they do in their life. So my goal is to expand the diversion programs and Justice Works. Thank you.
Louis Malewski for your response.
Thank you. When I was in the district attorney office putting together plea deals, as my opponent indicated, they're very critical for the protection of the public, the restoration of the victim, and the continuation of an effective and efficient criminal justice system. But one thing as it relates to Justice Works is that as a program, it's a nonprofit program. It's funded by donations, but it's a program that is essentially important to Portage County. Now, my opponent has sat on that board, but she hasn't indicated whether or not she's helped raise money for it. As the next district attorney, I will absolutely help raise money for that program. That program almost stopped working a few years ago. And as your next district attorney, I will make sure that that program is not only 50 slots, it's my goal to make that 150 slots. But that's going to take volunteers, that's going to take people who believe in the process, and that's going to take everyone being involved in the process, believing in the outcomes. The National Center for State Courts just released its report in Wisconsin. And one thing that we can do in that program to help fund it is to go after insurance of the defendants within the program. We don't currently do that to help fund it. We can also look at getting to the defendants as early as possible, as was mentioned. I agree with that. Because that criminal record ultimately stays with that defendant for the rest of their life and is an impediment to employment. Justice Works can be expanded. Our diversion programs can be expanded. And with the help of the courts, we can institute problem-solving courts like in Wood County and other counties in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to questions from the audience. Each speaker will again have 2 minutes to respond to each question, and we will begin with Louis Malewski. The first question is really a two-parter dealing with the same issue. Under your leadership, how vigorous will the DA's office pursue and prosecute domestic violence offenses? And what is your position on deferred prosecution for domestic violence?
When I was in the office, one of the biggest tools in domestic violence was sitting across from someone that had no interest being there. and you saying to them, all right, you're going to either be fully prosecuted as the district attorney I would, and in the office as setting the policy as what a district attorney does, domestic violence would be a high priority. But in the deferred prosecution concept, we would use those tools. Under federal law, you lose the right to a firearm for the rest of your life. That gets people's attention. Absolutely, they get. And that's what I did in that office, to get typically men to say, I'm hitting my wife. I need help. It's not helping my kids, and it's hurting all of us as citizens, because those kids are not going to become productive citizens probably. So absolutely, it's a high priority. And it is, unfortunately, in the Portage County Sheriff's Report, a high incident rate. Higher than other things you would think. Higher than homicides, certain sexual assaults. It's unfortunate, and it also is a silent crime. A lot of it goes unreported. So as your district attorney, I would also implement the existing program further, the deferred prosecution program further, but also have that understanding that, yes, you should come forward, speak to law enforcement, have those cases referred to the DA's office for appropriate disposition. It is very important that we continue this, and under state law, the deferred prosecution program is vital. Someone, keep your nose clean for a year or more, 2 years, do the treatment, speak about your problems, and move on with your life.
Veronica Isherwood.
Thank you. I too take domestic violence very seriously, and it has very unique issues that go along with it. The cycle of violence is a horrible cycle. I've been in the district attorney's office long enough to see children of people that I prosecuted when I started, now coming back through the system as juveniles and as young adults. And they act like what they learned. And when they were in an abusive home, they tend to be abusive. We have a terrible fighting problem in our community right now. And many of those kids came from abusive homes. The other issue that comes up is the recanting victim. The woman at midnight who's being hit and calls the police, is frantic, in the morning is worried about how she's going to pay the rent and how she's going to buy food. So all of a sudden she comes to our office and says, I don't want you to prosecute him, I lied, it didn't happen. It's one of the biggest problems we deal with, is the recanting victim. Offenders get one chance at a deferred prosecution agreement, and one chance only, and that's what is important, is that it's documented they were given that chance, because if it happens again, they have to go through the criminal system. The other problem that comes up is keeping the programs available. The Family Crisis Center is in a budget crisis. We have to keep developing new domestic violence programs so that they can be referred. And this is where Justice Works is invaluable, because it's inappropriate for me to sit down with a defendant when I may have to prosecute them. The third parties at Justice Works makes the program work very smoothly. And once again, it shows the importance of Justice Works. Thank you.
We will begin the next question with Veronica Isherwood. What is your actual courtroom experience? How much time have you spent charging crimes, conducting hearings, pretrials, and sentencing hearings?
Well, charging crimes in that list is the only thing that's not done in the courtroom. Today, when we were done with the motion hearings and had to set another court date, it took a good 10 minutes to find some empty space on the calendar. I am generally in court all day on Monday for intake and preliminary hearings and pretrials, all day Tuesdays for juveniles, Wednesdays and Thursdays are for jury trials, and Fridays is when we try to get all the paperwork done that piled up on Monday through Thursday. I have been in court for 11 years as a prosecutor, and for 3 years prior to that as a defense attorney. Before I went to law school, I was director of a child support agency, and I went to court in that capacity with the Corporation Council in Barron County. So I would say right now, in the last 11 years, 75% of my time is spent in the courtroom. And I would say 75% of the 8 to 4 day, because most of the paperwork gets done at 7 or 8 o'clock at night or on weekends. My husband is here, and I see him shaking his head, yes. He has seen me with our kitchen table strewn with cases on many, many occasions. So I have a tremendous amount of courtroom experience. And my longest trial was the Michael Hayden homicide trial, and that went on for almost 3 weeks. And those 3 weeks involved working on your next witnesses at night, working on the weekend, and then 5 days a week in court. Thank you.
Thank you. Louis Malewski?
Thank you. And it's an absolutely appropriate question. As the next district attorney, you should know that I've appeared in Portage County, Wood County, Marathon County, Wapaka County on many, many different types of cases, civil cases and criminal. I've prosecuted cases, as I've said, in the district attorney's office, and I've also defended cases in both capacities. And that's important. It is experience, and it's many different types of experience that I will be bringing to the DA race. In that capacity, it was my job to work on charging decisions when all the cases came in, and they were hundreds of cases. When Judge Fleischauer appointed me special prosecutor with the full powers of the district attorney, under the statute I worked independently, I had, on my watch, about 300 open cases. Sexual assault cases, domestic violence cases, OWI cases, many different types of cases. It was my obligation to make sure that those cases kept moving through the system. As a city attorney, assistant city attorney, I prosecuted forfeitures. They don't prosecute criminal cases there. They're forfeiture cases, OWI first, larceny type actions. And I also helped draft ordinances. But going in as the next district attorney, I'll have the experience as a prosecutor in the courtroom, as a private attorney, as a lawmaker drafting the law we'll be prosecuting. And that full breadth of experience is very important. Let's not forget, this county has 3 assistants and a district attorney. The district attorney sets all the criminal policy in the office. Which one of your neighbors will be prosecuted, how they'll be prosecuted, to what degree, and that's vitally important. And you only learn that from being a policymaker. And I have that experience which my opponent does not.
Thank you. We have time for one more question from the audience, and we will begin with Mr. Malewski. What affected your desire to be Portage County's prosecutor?
Well, it's a personal reason. Why would I give up my job as your representative? In 2003, I became part of the Portage County Big Brothers and Big Sisters program, and I was assigned to a young man. He was 12. He didn't have a dad in the state. He wasn't doing well in school, and his mother worked all day long at Skyward to put food on the table for him. But he was what we'd call a latchkey kid, and he didn't have a lot of mentoring. I decided to mentor him, and we moved him from bad grades to graduation to full employment Oshkosh truck, where he excelled, but he needed someone to help him. As the district attorney, you absolutely have that opportunity. I will have that opportunity to do the great things that Justice Works is doing in that Portage County District Attorney Office. I will have that opportunity to not just write the law and vote on the law, but actually put it in practice. And that's something that's very powerful, because you need to make sure that you have someone who's trustworthy, who's confident, and who's community-minded. So choosing to run as district attorney and giving it all up and saying, I'm on the ballot because I have a vision for the criminal justice community for Portage County. I want to make criminals productive citizens. And that is a powerful thing. But you do that with all of our help. And I want to make that change and help Justice Works and move our community forward. Forward past just lock them up policies. We will lock up those people that are threats to the community. Those will be those recommendations. But as the sheriff tells us, the vast majority of cases are not those cases that need that type of determination. Thank you.
Veronica Isherwood.
Thank you. When I started actually my first stint in the district attorney's office was as a student intern back in 1998. And when I filled in that position, from then on I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor. Every class I took in law school was about prosecution. And as soon as I got out, I went to Tom Egan's office and said, when you're ready for a prosecutor, I'm ready for the job. When a position opened, he hired me. Everything that I breathe and live for at work is at the district attorney's office. I have a passion for the work. I love being a prosecutor. I will retire as a prosecutor. After 11 years, when Mr. Egan was elected judge, I want to continue his legacy. He taught me everything I know about being a prosecutor. He has a great legal mind, and he has been such a mentor to me, and I want to pass on that legacy. I love working with the interns that come every summer, and the district attorney is the supervising attorney of the 3 assistants and any intern that comes in. The district attorney is the one who's responsible for all of their legal work, and that's where the experience is so important. When we come out of a motion hearing or out of a jury trial, the attorneys in the office get together and they have a little backseat quarterbacking on what should be done in court. I've been doing that for 11 years. I care about Portage County. This is my home. I care deeply about prosecution. I've always said I'm on the right side, and no offense to defense attorneys, but I will always be on this side. Thank you.
Thank you. We have still one more question, and we will begin with Veronica Isherwood for this question. How many staff, I don't know the word, are in the district attorney's office, and what are their roles, and how many cases does the DA's office handle in a year?
Oh, wow. Staff is easy. There are 4 attorneys counting the district attorney. There are 5 clerical staff and the victim witness coordinator. We usually have some college interns and student interns from the tech school during the year, and then our attorney intern if we're lucky enough to have one in the summer. As far as the number of cases, I can tell you that my desk is about this long and they're stacked about this high. I make a little corner or a little area in the middle where I work. When I looked at CCAP records, I believe that I had around 2,000 felonies on CCAP that I prosecuted, slightly more misdemeanors, and then there's traffic cases and juvenile cases. Just as a guess, I would guess around 1,000 cases a year would be prosecuted by each individual attorney. The district attorney usually takes about half of a caseload. In the case of Tom Egan, he took just the felonies, a quarter of the felonies. So it's a tremendous number. It's hard to count because every day there's new charges. Every week there's pleas and cases are done. There's always the cases that get appealed, and then if it's a misdemeanor, our office is responsible for doing the appellate work. But I would say 1,000 cases a year per attorney is a pretty safe average, which would mean I've prosecuted over 11,000 cases in Portage County. Thank you.
Thank you. I figured out what it says. It says how many staff work in the DA's office, so we'll assume they all work, right?
Oh, they do.
Louis Malevsky for your response.
Well, this is one of those questions where I would say I think Veronica answered the question correctly. There are 3 ADAs. There's the district attorney. We probably should have 4 ADAs. We probably should have another judge also, by the way. We could use another courthouse too. And we could use more support staff, and our county board members and exec are here. Just so you understand, the county staff, or excuse me, the staff or county staff, ADAs and the DA are under the state plan. We're state employees. So as the DA, I would manage that office with hiring opportunities for the ADAs and also with the staff in conjunction with the county functioning committees dealing with employees. As far as total cases, there are a lot of cases in there. When I was in the office, there were always stacks of cases on your desk. In fact, I heard that the ADAs were under an order from the judges to make sure they charge out all open files before Judge-elect Egan takes the oath of office August 1st. And that's a task. Because I know when I was in the office, I'd get there about 7 in the morning, and I would leave at 7 at night or later. You just left when you got your work done. Because there's no one there to hold your hand and move the process forward if you're not working in the office. So you work very hard in the office. It's one of those jobs that you go into it because you believe in it, you love it. I had that experience watching my father and other members of my family prosecute cases as a little kid. And that's where I got that drive to be protecting people, but also being understanding of victim rights, defendant rights, and having that impartial treatment of everybody in that system. I'll just say this, the sheriff puts out an annual report. We had 64% change in larcenies. We had 15% reduction in other crimes. I mean, the list goes on. The one that really stuck out was a 213% increase in motor vehicle thefts. Oh, I'm sorry. And on that sentence, I would say, as DA, you look at those stats to make sure the resources are going in the right area.
Thank you. Each candidate will now have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. And we will begin with Louis Malevsky. You'll notice I keep repeating their names because I found out for many years in politics that candidates want their name repeated over and over.
Trust. He was laughing, right? No. Trust. As your elected assembly person, you trusted me with your right to vote and your right of representation. I work very hard in that capacity. And I'm asking you for that trust now as your next district attorney. To move our criminal justice system where all evidence shows we need to move. Evidence-based practices, restorative justice, and making sure that the office runs efficiently, even when we know we don't have the resources we need. You can't complain about that. You have to move forward. I have the support of many people in this community. The Wisconsin Troopers Association, Assistant District Attorney David Knapp in the office, who has the most legal experience in years in that office, the Victim Witness Coordinator, the County Board, and many other people. That should show something. They believe that I have the experience, the intellect, and the trustworthiness to be your next district attorney. That's significant. As your next district attorney, I will implement new practices. Tom Egan was an excellent DA, but I don't intend to take over the office and just remain in a stasis mode. Obviously, we're going to move those best practices forward, but I want to bring new practices forward. And that's why I'll partner with restorative justice programs like Justice Works. We will improve restitution for businesses and have diversion programs there. We'll enhance victim rights as it did in the legislature, and we'll divert nonviolent offenders. And we'll employ what Bill Bablich did at age 25 when he was elected DA of this county. We'll have an open door policy that you feel part of that office. Now, we do have that bulletproof glass, I guess, but we'll still have that opportunity to understand we are a village and we're part of the process. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Veronica Isherwood.
Thank you. The glass isn't bulletproof, but we're not supposed to tell the criminals that. And the other comment I needed to make is that if we didn't leave the office until our work was done, we would never leave the office. The work is never done there, but it is an important job. The diversion programs and Justice Works is very important, and the volunteers and the staff who run that program are excellent, and I hope it's there forever. But the district attorney's office is about the most serious crimes as well. It's the homicides, the sexual assaults, the arsons, the burglaries. We have had so many burglaries in our community in the last few years. And if you've ever been the victim of a burglary, you know it's an absolutely terrifying experience. And it's something where it takes a long time to get back your sense of safety. Those people don't go into diversion programs. Those people need punishment. The district attorney has to be firm and fair, has to be able to look at the case and make sure that it can be successfully prosecuted, have to make sure that we know what we're doing and that when we go to court, we have the proper evidence. As a district attorney, you also have to run the office. There was a criticism of my budgeting ability recently. I will say that I have a degree in accounting. I was a municipal auditor. I audited counties and county budgets and county departments when the Wisconsin Department of Revenue ran that office. I've run my own businesses with up to 25 employees, and I was a department head responsible for a budget. So I have extensive budgeting experience. I've managed people. I've worked in the DA's office for 11 years, not 4 months. My opponent was a special prosecutor 4 months. I would ask that you support the experience. Thank you.
I'd like to thank both candidates for the time and energy that they've expended in seeking this office of Portage County District Attorney and for participating in this forum this evening. And I thank you for your kind attention to their responses. And at this time, we will move on to the forum for the assembly candidates.